Good evening. We're going to open our regular council meeting tonight at 6:18 on October 25th, 2022. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, there she is. Perfect. 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 Let me know when you're ready. Roll call.
Mayor Biassiata,
Here.
Assistant Director of Law DeChiro,
Here.
Director of Finance Petruniak, Councilman at Large Elliott, Councilwoman at Large Kelly. Here. Councilman at Large Koyu,
Here.
Ward 1 Councilman Curriasis.
Here.
Ward 2 Councilman Martin.
Here.
Ward 3 Councilman Snitsky.
Present.
Ward 4 Councilman Delaquilla.
Here.
Director of Public Service and Properties Johnson.
Here.
Building Commissioner Grassi.
Present.
Engineer Schmitzer.
I'm going to make a motion to excuse Councilman Elliott and Finance Director Petruniak. Do I have a second?
Kelly, second.
Roll call.
Delaquilla.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Steinmetz. Snitsky. I'm-
Wow, that's a
how old
throwback.
I am.
I am present and
That's
my
how
name
old
is
I am.
Snitsky. Gosh almighty.
Sincerest apologies. Mr. Council.
Wow.
We now go to the reading and disposal of the journal.
Mr. President,
Councilman Kuyu.
having read the minutes of the regular meeting of June 14th, 2022, I find no errors or omission, and if there's no division of the question, I move to accept the minutes as submitted.
Curriasis, second. Roll call.
Delaquilla.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
We now go to our consent agenda for October 25th, 2022.
Mr. President,
Councilman Kuyu.
if there's no division of the question, I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda for October 25th, 2022.
Martin, second.
Roll call.
Delaquilla.
Yes.
Elliott. I'm sorry. I'm not on my game today. Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
We now go to resolutions of commendation. We go to the first reading of resolution number 17-2022.
Mr. President,
Council Pro Tem Kelly.
I move to suspend the rules of council and read resolution number 17-2022 by title only for its first and final reading.
Second the motion?
Roll call.
Delaquilla.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Resolution number 17, 2022, introduced by Mayor Biassiata and councilpersons Curriasis, Kelly, Elliott, Koyu, Martin, Snitsky, and Delaquilla. A resolution of commendation to Elena Kostiak, City of Seven Hills Hall of Fame Resident of the Month, July 2022. Whereas Elena Kostiak was born and raised in Seven Hills and is a 1983 graduate of Normandy High School. Elena began working at Berea Children's Home and became a role model and nurturing presence for emotionally disturbed children, transitioning as a special education associate for the Berea City Schools. And whereas Elena Kostiak moved away from Seven Hills for 11 years, married, and became a stay-at-home mom to raise 3 daughters while supporting her husband through his career in education. Elena made sure that each of her children received every opportunity to achieve their dreams and cheered them on at basketball games, country music shows, and dance competitions, and later helped and supported their endeavors in the medical and education fields. And whereas Elena Kostiak and her family moved back to Seven Hills in 2001, Elena became a fixture as a smiling face greeting visitors at the Seven Hills Recreation Center. Continuing her life as a servant leader, she worked her way to a coordinator position at TJ Maxx and has been lauded by the various store managers for her tremendously friendly manner and regularly led the store in credit card sales. In addition, Elena currently volunteers as an ombudsman for the Cleveland Clinic. And whereas Elena Kostiak, through the years, tirelessly helped her parents, George and Arlene Chandic, with her father's successful political career, proudly witnessing her father ultimately being elected mayor of Seven Hills in the 1990s. When her parents passed, Elena took it upon herself to chair the Seven Hills Hall of Fame, which her father formed to keep his vision moving forward. And whereas the City of Seven Hills and the Hall of Fame Committee would like to recognize Elena Kostiak for her outstanding achievements, endeavors, and accomplishments by presenting her with the July 2022 Seven Hills Hall of Fame Resident of the Month honor. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Seven Hills, Ohio, that the appreciation of the mayor, council, and all other elected and appointed officials is hereby extended to Elena Kostiak for her outstanding achievements and accomplishments, and the best wishes of the official family are herewith extended to her for continued success. That the clerk of council be, and she's hereby authorized and directed to forward a certified copy of this resolution to Elena Kostiak immediately upon its adoption. That this resolution is hereby determined to be an emergency measure necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, safety, and welfare of the City of Seven Hills, and for the further reason that same affects the day-to-day business of the municipality. Wherefore, this resolution shall take effect and be in force immediately upon its adoption, otherwise at the earliest period allowed by law.
Is there a further motion?
Mr. President,
Council Pro Tem Kelly?
I move to approve the emergency clause found in the last section of the resolution, number 17-2022.
Second the motion?
Roll call?
Delaquilla,
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Elaine, I want to congratulate you on being the July Resident of the Month for all your work at the Berea Children's Home, the Rec Center, the Cleveland Clinic as an ombudsman, which is a very, very important job, as I found out, and being able to watch your kids play basketball, country music shows, and dance competition. Congratulations. Do I have anybody else on council?
Mr. President?
Council Pro Tem Kelly?
Elena, congratulations, you're a true Renaissance woman. There's nothing you can't do. You've raised a beautiful family and have made all the sacrifices that come with kids in a family. You serve your community through the Hall of Fame and at the Rec Center, and it's nice that you chose to honor your father, the late Mayor Chandic, through his vision of the Seven Hills Hall of Fame. It's a great way to showcase and honor our residents who truly stand out, so for that I thank you. I never met your father, but I heard he was a great man. Clearly he rubbed off on you. I'm so glad you're on the mend and you look great. I wish you continued success, nothing but health and happiness.
Thank you. Anyone else on council?
Mr. President, if I may?
Councilman Delaquilla?
Thank you. Hi, Elena. I would just add concurrence with everything else that's just been mentioned, and I would add a couple more things. I'm so happy to see that you're doing well and you're here and you're smiling and you look like your same old self that you always were. And I think, as you know, your dad would be so proud of you now, and as he always was during your life. I knew him fairly well, and I know his personality. I know how close your family was, and he was with all of you, and I just know in my heart that he would be so very proud of you and all of your family, all of your accomplishments. Thank you so much for being a resident of our city and all of your contributions to this city. Thank you so much.
Mr. President.
Mayor Biassiata.
Thank you. I could spend the rest of the night talking about this award, but I won't. Elena, you are the embodiment of what we wanted when we talked about Seven Hills Hall of Fame Resident of the Month. It's laid out in this beautiful proclamation, a life of giving back. But what really exemplifies Elena is it's in word and deed. And only she talk about Seven Hills. She promotes it everywhere she goes and everything she does. It's in word and deed. She's proud to have grown up here, proud of her family's heritage, proud of where we're going, and #1 cheerleader. And oftentimes when there were dark times, the first to put a positive spin. Wait, folks, there's so many good things. Let's talk about the good things and why Seven Hills is a great place. And you can't ask for a better resident and a better friend than Elena. And I would be mistaken not to take the opportunity. Whenever you have somebody accomplishing great things, it's not just one person, it takes a team. A marvelous husband, great daughters, and fabulous sisters and brother-in-law, and they do everything together. I'm jealous. I wish I got along that well with my siblings. Here they are, in each one of their own capacity. We're honoring Elaine today, but we are honoring the Chandic family today because it's been a team effort. They're supporting her in the Hall of Fame things. They're all the volunteer efforts. Even though people have gone slightly different directions, they always come back to their roots, all three of you. And their roots and their name is synonymous with Seven Hills. So thank you, Elena, and the entire family for all you've done for this community. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mayor Biassiata. Anyone else on council? Councilman Snitsky.
Hi, Elena. There's not a lot I can add to that. When I first got on council and met your father, the only word I can, if I had to describe your dad in one word, the word would be class. Just a class act. And it's trickled down. You and your whole family are nothing but a class act. So, it's nice to know that if I ever have a problem with a bill at Cleveland Clinic, I can call you. So, congratulations and good luck in the future.
Thank you, Councilman Snitsky. Any other council members? Anybody on the dais? Councilman Kuyu.
Elena, thank you for everything that you've brought to this community and done for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Kuyu. Anyone else? Any further motions?
Mr. President,
Council Pro Tem Kelly.
I move that we adopt resolution number 17-2022 as an emergency measure.
Second the motion.
Roll call?
Delaquilla,
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Resolution number 17-2022 has been adopted.
You are so welcome.
Oh, you're welcome, Elena.
That's okay. Don't make more.
Thanks, I'm Pat DeChiro. I've met your dad, I used to go to his fundraisers when you had him at Sleepy Hollow and other places. Yeah. So-
Did you work at the children's home? Did you know a guy by the name of Bruce Buckner? He was a substitute teacher there a lot.
I went to George's fundraiser back in like 1992, 93. He had one at, he used to have golf outings at,
You're old too.
yeah, Sleepy Hollow. Yeah, I'm old too.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Tom.
Encroach.
We now go to the first reading of resolution number 18-2022.
Mr. President,
Council Pro Tem Kelly.
I move to suspend the rules of council and read resolution number 18-2022 by title only for its first and final reading.
Second the motion.
Roll call?
Delaquilla,
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Resolution number 18, 2022, introduced by Mayor Biassiata and councilpersons Curriasis, Kelly, Elliott, Koyu, Martin, Snitsky, and Delaquilla. A resolution of commendation to Joan Mass, City of Seven Hills Hall of Fame, Resident of the Month, September 2022. Whereas Joan Mass is officially retiring after being an employee of the City of Seven Hills since the City of Seven Hills Community Recreation Complex first opened its doors in 2003. Joan has become a fan favorite of the city employees, members of the recreation complex, kids, and nearly anyone who has chatted with her, enjoying Joan's never-ending, amazing personality and delightful sense of humor. seeing Joan each morning was always the best start to anyone's day. And whereas not only is Joan Mass a loyal and devoted 19-year employee of the city, but she is also a longtime resident. Joan has been living in Seven Hills since 1968. She is the proud mother of Renee and Russell and spoils her 5 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren, as well as her dog Duncan. And whereas Joan Mass has traveled the world as Girl Scout leader and has dazzled audiences as a square dancer, Joan brings such a loving and nurturing presence to the Recreation Center and has rightfully earned the nicknames of Grandma Joan and Front Desk Joan. And whereas Joan Mass loves to lunch with her friends, and she is a true example of someone who lives their life to the fullest. Even at 88 years young, Joan doesn't plan on slowing down. And whereas the City of Seven Hills and the Hall of Fame Committee would like to recognize Joan Mass for outstanding achievements, endeavors, and accomplishments by presenting her with the September 2022 Seven Hills Hall of Fame Resident of the Month honor. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Seven Hills, Ohio, that the appreciation of the mayor, council, and all other elected and appointed officials is hereby extended to Joan Mass for her outstanding achievements and accomplishments, and the best wishes of the official family are herewith extended to her for continued success. That the clerk of council be and she is hereby authorized and directed to forward a certified copy of this resolution to Joan Mass immediately upon its adoption. That this resolution is hereby determined to be an emergency measure necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, safety, and welfare of the City of Seven Hills, and for the further reason that same affects the day-to-day business of the municipality. Wherefore, this resolution shall take effect and be in force immediately upon its adoption, otherwise at the earliest period allowed by law.
Is there a further motion?
Mr. President,
Council Pro Tem Kelly.
I move to approve the emergency clause found in the last section of Resolution 18-2022.
Second the motion.
Roll call.
Delaquilla.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Joan, I want to congratulate you for Resident of the Month for September 2022, for your many years of service to the rec center, your smiling face, I'm sure, is going to be missed up at the recreation center. Thank you for all your service. Anybody else on council have any comments?
Mr. President?
Council Pro Tem Kelly.
Ms. Mass, I'd like to thank you for being a longtime resident and a city employee for 19 years. That alone deserves an award. From shaping young minds as a Girl Scout leader to being part of a recreation center, you have had a positive impact on many people. So may God bless you on your retirement with adventure, health, and happiness. You're welcome.
Thank you, Council Pro Tem Kelly. Councilman Delaquilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hi. I don't think I need to tell you that it takes a very special personality to be dealing with the public every single day, and you did it for 19 years. I was first elected to council in '03 when you started, so I was kind of on the sidelines watching the growing pains over there, and I know some of the things that you had to deal with. But every time I would come into the rec center, there was this happy person with a smile and a word of encouragement and dealing with 5 things at the same time. I was so impressed by the work that you devoted to your position there. You say that you love Seven Hills. In my observation and seeing the people coming through the rec center, I can tell you with assurance that Seven Hills loves you. Congratulations on your award this evening and all of your efforts with the city.
Thank you, Councilman Delaquilla.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Not anymore, she's retiring.
Anybody else on council have any comments? Councilman Kuyu.
Ms. Mass, thank you, and also congratulations. I hope you enjoy everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Mayor
President?
Biassiata.
Joan, thank you. Congratulations on your award. Thank you for your service to the city. You can't, you're synonymous with the rec center. You talk to any member, your name's the first one coming up. Not any of the 3 or 4 mayors you served, not our wonderful director, but Joan's the first name. It's your rec center. We're just renting space in it. And behalf of the whole city and everyone, thank you for the almost 20 years of outstanding service. And the French say au revoir, it's not goodbye. We'll see you soon. Take care.
Thank you, Mayor Biassiata. Any other council members have any comments? Is there a further motion?
Mr. President,
Council Pro Tem Kelly.
I move to adopt resolution number 18-2022 as an emergency measure.
Second the motion?
Roll call?
Delaquila.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Resolution number 18-2022 has been adopted.
Come on, Joan, front and center. I can never move it far enough. Watch the wire.
We now go to reports of committees, Planning, Zoning, and Economic Development. Councilman Snitsky?
Good evening, everybody. Planning, zoning, building, and economic development had a very brief meeting this evening. Next meeting will be November 29th.
Thank you. Public Works, Councilman Kuyu.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Works met last on October 11th. We will meet again on November 15th, and minutes are on file with the Clerk of Council.
Thank you. Community Service, Council Pro Tem Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our last meeting was October 11th. The minutes are on file, and our next meeting is November 15th.
Thank you. Police and Safety. He's not here. Parks and Recreation, Councilman Martin.
Thank you, President. Parks and Recreation met this evening. The minutes for tonight's meeting have been submitted, and our next meeting date appears to be November 29th.
Thank you. Rules, Ordinances, and Ethics with Councilman Delaquila.
Thank you, Mr. President. The last meeting of the Rules Committee was this evening, and the minutes will be submitted shortly. The next meeting is scheduled for November 29th.
Thank you. Finance, Civil Service, and Personnel last met this evening. Minutes are pending, and the next meeting is November 15th. We now go to appointments and confirmations.
Mr. President,
Mayor Biassiata.
I'd like to present for appointment this evening to the position of Law Director Eric Moore. I'm asking that council act on this motion, this recommendation this evening.
Roll call?
Well, we need a motion.
Oh, motion. I'm going to make a motion for Eric Moore as our next Law Director.
Martin, second.
Roll call?
I'm asked for the appointment to be effective immediately.
I'm going to make a motion for effective immediately for Eric Moore as our Law Director. Do I have a second?
Martin, second.
Roll call?
Delaquila.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Communications, petitions, and claims?
There is one tonight, yes. I received an email over the weekend from John Riggin. It's in reference to North Park concerns, and he requested that I read this into the record tonight. Good evening. I hope this email finds you well. My name is John Riggin, and my wife, Katie, and I live at 5723 Skyline Drive. We have lived here for just under 6 years and have 2 dogs and 2 young children. Our backyard faces the park within 10 to 15 feet of the volleyball court's new location, and 20 to 50 feet from the pavilion in the middle of the park. After speaking with our neighbor Patrick, we have some concerns with the plans for the park. First, the new placement of the volleyball court is close to the fence that is by our house. We do not have any problem with the volleyball court being in the park at all. The problem is that it was relocated closer to our home with no notice. The swearing and yelling can be heard clear as day from our backyard when games are being played. We are concerned with the privacy and safety aspect this brings. We have young children and 2 dogs. If balls fly over the fence and land in our backyard, there's nothing stopping players from entering our property to get the ball. This provides a major safety concern for our children. Second, the pavilion is already in a tough spot, being so close to and in direct line of sight from our backyard. Teenagers and people who come to the park to have parties are pulling their cars up to the pavilion, playing music, yelling and screaming to where we don't spend much time in our own backyard. This is prior to any allowance of alcohol in the park. The Party Center Wedding Pavilion that is planned to be constructed is only going to amplify this problem. This brings in all sorts of danger into our subdivisions. Someone may get too intoxicated and wander over from one of the many entrances to the park and cause harm to someone that lives in the area. The music and constant loud noises that come with parties and weddings late at night is not going to go over well with the residents in the area. Finally, we have noticed an increase of people getting too close to our property for comfort. We have 2 large dogs, and we already have people who come up to the fence to antagonize them and get them to bark protectively and bother our neighbors. Having the volleyball court moved this close to our fence is already having our dogs try and protect their home and family. Our dogs are not aggressive in any way, but if they are antagonized and unknown people approach their home, they will bark and try to keep the strangers away. This all comes from a good place. We love our home and our neighborhood. As stated previously, my wife and I are parents to 2 young children. The privacy and safety of our backyard is coming into question with these updates, and we need to think about the safety of our children first and foremost, not to mention the safety of all the other children that live close to the park. We are all for the renovation of the park. The baseball field needs some updating. The playground could be replaced. The basketball courts could be fixed up. However, from our knowledge, none of these areas are being addressed. Instead, we are presented with causes for concern due to the volleyball courts being moved to within 10 feet of some residents' backyards with no warning to the residents affected, and the removal of the nature walking path for the addition of a party center. One way to rectify the privacy and safety issues that are now more prominent due to the relocation of the volleyball court would be the installation of a privacy fence along the property line. While it won't solve all of the concerns, it will give us peace of mind that our dogs will not be antagonized and our children will be able to play in our yard safely. Again, that came from John Riggin.
Thank you. Council open to the audience on legislation only? Nothing. We now go to the first reading of ordinance number 80-2022.
Mr. President,
Councilman Snitsky.
I move to suspend the rules of council by reading ordinance number 80-2022 by title only for its first and final reading.
Curriass, second. Roll call.
Delaquilla.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriass.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Ordinance number 80, 2022, introduced by Mayor Biassiata and councilpersons Curriasis, Kelly, Elliott, Koyu, Martin, Snitsky, and Delaquilla. An ordinance amended ordinance number 40, 2021, passed by council May 11th, 2021, in which the city accepted the donation of an electronic baseball scoreboard with appurtenances from Meyer Stores Limited Partnership, and additionally renamed Valleywood Park to Meyer Park for a term of 10 years for the purpose of revising the date of the 10-year renaming term to indicate until December 31st, 2032, and declaring an emergency.
Is there a further motion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Snitsky.
I move to approve the emergency clause in section 4 of the ordinance.
Curriass, second. Roll call.
Delaquilla.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Is there a further motion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Snitsky.
I move to pass ordinance 80-2022 as an emergency measure.
Curriass, second. Roll call.
Delacuilla,
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Ordinance number 80-2022 has passed. We now go to the first reading of ordinance number 81-2022.
Mr. President,
Councilman Delacuilla.
thank you. I move to suspend the rules of council and read ordinance number 81-2022 by title only for its first and final reading.
Curriass, second. Roll call.
Delacuilla,
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Ordinance number 81, 2022, introduced by Mayor Biassiata and councilpersons Curriasis, Kelly, Elliott, Koyu, Martin, Snitsky, and Delacuilla. An ordinance to appropriate an additional sum of $2,300 for a change order to ordinance number 137, 2019, passed by council on October 29, 2019, which authorized an initial amount of $7,733.44 each year of the three-year agreement, and ordinance number 90, 2020, passed by council on December 15th, 2020, which authorized an additional sum of $2,916.86 each year of the three-year agreement with UniFirst for standard uniforms and service product rental to be used by the city of Seven Hills and declaring an emergency.
Is there a further motion?
Yes, Mr. President, I move that council approves the emergency clause in section 4 of the ordinance in order that the contractual payment amount can be amended as soon as possible.
Curriass, second. Roll call.
Delacuilla.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Is there a further motion?
Yes, I move that council passes ordinance 81-2022 as an emergency measure.
Curriass, second. Roll call.
Delacuilla.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Ordinance number 81-2022 has passed. We now go to the first reading of ordinance number 82-2022.
Council President, Councilman Martin.
Councilman Martin.
Yes, I move that we suspend the rules of council and read ordinance number 82-2022 by title only for its first and final reading.
Kelly, I'll second.
Roll call.
Delacuilla.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Ordinance number 82, 2022, introduced by Mayor Biassiata and councilpersons Curriasis, Kelly, Elliott, Koyu, Martin, Snitsky, and Delacuilla. An ordinance to appropriate an additional sum of $40,000 for the remainder of year 2022 for a change order to ordinance number 117, 2021, passed by council on December 28, 2021, which authorized an initial amount of $50,000 annually for the purchase of ultra-low sulfur diesel premium fuel for the period of January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2023, and declaring an emergency.
Is there a further motion?
Council President, Councilman Martin.
Councilman Martin.
Yes, I move to approve the emergency clause in section 4 of the ordinance.
Kelly, I'll second.
Roll call.
Delacuilla.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Is there a further motion?
Council President, Councilman Martin.
Councilman Martin.
Yes, I move to pass ordinance number 82-2022 as an emergency measure.
Kelly, I'll second.
Roll call.
Delacuilla.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Ordinance number 82-2022 has passed. We now go to the first reading of ordinance number 83-2022.
Mr. President,
Councilman Kuyu.
I make a motion to suspend the rules of council and read ordinance 83-2022 by title only for its first and final reading.
Curriass, second. Roll call.
Delacuilla.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Ordinance number 83, 2022, introduced by Mayor Biassiata and councilpersons Curriasis, Kelly, Elliott, Koyu, Martin, Snitsky, and Delacuilla. An ordinance approving and accepting the appointment of Eric J. Moore as Director of Law for the City of Seven Hills and declaring an emergency.
Is there a further motion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Kuyu.
I move to approve the emergency clause found in section 3 of ordinance 83-2022.
Curriass, second. Roll call.
Delaquila,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Is there a further motion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Kuyu?
I move to pass ordinance 83-2022 as emergency measure.
Curriass, second. Roll call?
Delaquila,
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Ordinance number 83-2022 has passed.
Mr. President,
Yes.
can I make a comment?
Yes.
I've known Eric Moore for a long time. And I can't think of anybody more qualified to take this position right now in the city. So I want to thank you for stepping up to do this, and good luck.
Thank you, Councilman Snitsky.
You're welcome.
We now go to the first reading of ordinance number 84-2022.
Ordinance number 84, 2022, introduced by Mayor Biassiata and councilpersons Curriasis, Kelly, Elliott, Koyu, Martin, Snitsky, and Delaquila. An ordinance to amend section 137.06, squad assistance fee, as contained in chapter 137, Department of Fire of Title V Administrative of Part 1 Administrative Code of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Seven Hills, Ohio, by adding new subsection 137.06G for the purpose of implementing guidelines on resident billing.
And we now go to the first reading of resolution number 21-2022.
Mr. President,
Council Pro Tem Kelly.
I move to suspend the rules of council and read resolution number 21-2022 by title only for its first and final reading.
Second the motion?
Roll call?
Delaquila.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Resolution number 21, 2022, introduced by Mayor Biassiata and councilpersons Curriasis, Kelly, Elliott, Koyu, Martin, Snitsky, and Delaquila. A resolution requesting the county fiscal officer to make property tax advance payments to the city during calendar year 2023 pursuant to section 32134 of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring an emergency.
Is there a further motion?
Mr. President,
Council Pro Tem Kelly.
I move to adopt the emergency clause found in the last section of resolution number 21-2022.
Second the motion?
Roll call?
Delaquila.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Is there a further motion?
Mr. President,
Council Pro Tem Kelly.
I move that council adopt resolution number 21-2022 as an emergency measure.
Second the motion?
Roll call?
Delaquila.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Resolution number 21-2022 has been adopted. Council now open to the audience. Mr. Orwig?
Mr. President, may I have 10 seconds before we start?
Yes.
I'd just like to remind everyone that this is a council meeting. Rule 26 of our ordinance state that all comments must be directed to council as a whole, not any individual. And it also, Rule 26 presents any disparaging remarks such as calling people a bully or a liar. I hope that this will be an orderly meeting and council will follow their own rules. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Orwig?
Good evening, Patrick Orwig, 5733 Skyline. If I could, with respect, present a one-page document of the members here. I appreciate that very much. Thank you so much. I would appreciate that. I just want to ask if you permit me to stand in front of you, not as a dismissed bi-weekly complainer, but like you, as a Seven Hills homeowner, trying to connect with you as a person who represents the city of Seven Hills. Our homes have become less appealing to my wife and I and our neighbors with the installation of the volleyball court, a living room's distance away from our homes. My wife and I would not have purchased this home had the volleyball court been located as it is. The volleyball court can be placed in a manner that would not have that effect on us or our neighbors. Please look at the document which I provided, which clearly indicates concerns that should be very relatable if you put yourself in our shoes. There is an alternative to the current location. There are no residents here fighting that the court location stay where it is. It seems clearly apparent there is a better way to provide this feature to residents without harming the pleasurable use and enjoyment of our homes. As people who like our homes less and less and like the city less and less at this point in time, based on how we feel mistreated, please, as representatives of the city of Seven Hills, do not dismiss us without asking yourself if you would want this to happen to you. We are asking for help. We are asking for your help, Mayor. Can I please ask for you guys to consider that this might be a sensible change as noted in the yellow on the handout I provided? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments from the audience tonight? Please state your name and your address, please.
Yes, my name's Tony Lovano. I live at 1560 South Circle View. My house butts up against the back of North Park. I would just like to say all the work that's been done there, the improvements and everything have made a positive difference. The park is being used more, I feel. Saturday mornings, Pee-wee flag football, soccer, families in the park. Outside of everything else, I think the improvements, the attention it's been getting has been positive, and it's nice to see it, the upkeep and being used in the right way. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments this evening?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Holly Strick. I'm at 5741 Skyline. I'm neighbors with Pat Orwig. Our neighbor, John, that sent the email in that was read earlier could not have voiced it better for my sentiment. I grew up, my parents built a house in August of '62. We moved when I was 3. I was fortunate enough to buy my brother out of his half of the house 4 years ago. And I had taken care of my mom for a period of almost 10 years after my dad had passed. So I lived there a lot of the time. There was a volleyball court that had been present in the park for several years before that. It was significantly smaller, much further away, faced differently. Never had to worry about the ball going in my yard or any foul language and that type of thing. And I do want to reiterate that I think what the administration and the council are doing is just fantastic with the improvement of the parks and everything. I'm all for that. It's just the location so close of this particular volleyball court is really difficult. I have an enclosed screen porch that I cannot use when they're playing. The foul language is just horrible. I keep my windows closed. I'm on the other side of the house as far as I can. I have to turn my 55-inch TV up to a volume of 40 in order to try to drown out the F-bombs that are constantly going on. In the last couple of years, I've expanded a little bit on my front porch so that I could sit out in the front yard instead and have the house as a little bit of a buffer. And so my concern is just the lack of, I just don't feel secure in my old home. I'm 63 and a half now, so I'm a senior citizen. I live by myself with my 2 cats. And I don't feel safe anymore. And so that's primarily the noise and just the lack of privacy. And I am glad that there are people using the park. For a very long time, there weren't. So that's not my issue. I know I purchased the house from my brother, his half, with the park there, and I expect park activities. It's just the nature of what's going on right now is being very difficult, and I have not been to very many meetings with my neighbor. because you can tell I'm nervous talking about it right now. It upsets me so much because I love that house. I love this city. I've lived here basically my whole life. And it really saddens me that I can't enjoy it as much as I had hoped I could. So thank you for your time, everyone. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else, any comments this evening? We now go to reports and communications from the mayor/safety director.
I have no report at this time, but I'd like to reserve some comments after our Director of Public Service provides his report, if that's okay, Mr. President.
That's fine. We now go to reports from directors and department heads. Director of Law.
Thank you. A few things tonight. First off, I want to congratulate Eric Moore on his appointment as law director. I saw that on the agenda, and I want to thank council for that. It's nice to have someone in this department. I think in early May of this year, when there was just me left in the department, I felt a little overwhelmed. I was leaving for Italy, and luckily I managed to have some help from Mr. Deemert's office. He said, don't worry, when you go, we'll handle part of it. Max Riker from Walter Haverfield kicked in, said anything needed on the employment issues, he would be there. And at that time, I also employed Okar and Grandinetti, namely Joe Grandinetti, to handle the criminal and the police end of it, because that's something that cannot be left with a day's rest. And everybody did outstanding. And I can't believe how busy our city is. I have a to-do file that I can't even begin to tell you how extensive it is, and it's nice to see the law department forming. And with that said, I refer to the charter, and I've handed out a resume tonight of Joe Grandinetti. And the reason I'm going to refer to the charter is under the charter, and until Eric's sworn in, it says under Article 5, Section 2, that in the absence of the Director of Law, for any reason, any Assistant Director of Law shall perform all the duties herein imposed upon the Director of Law. And one of those duties is the Director of Law shall be empowered to designate such assistants as shall be authorized by and approved by council. So the reason I handed out Joe's resume is I think everybody, and I've spoken to Eric when I saw it on the agenda, everybody wants to get rolling. And I've worked as best as I can. I haven't been always timely on all the memos in the past few months, but I've been trying to do three-person's job. So I don't think we want to wait anymore. We want to have a meeting Friday if possible and get this going. There's so much going on in this city, and that's really something good to say about council and the mayor and the administration. So much development. There's also the additions of Meyer and Erie Bank, and with those also comes the addition of, and I think Chief Saloom would call you, the addition of theft cases. And I think we average at least 10 theft cases a month out of Meyer alone. So, but with that said, so with the permission of Joe Deemert and in his consultation, I had hired Joe to fill in for me while I was in Italy and to assist me all the way through August 31st, and he did. He did a great job. You've seen his resume. He's experienced. He works at Parma for the city of Broadview Heights. He did a great job, and since August 31st, he's been helping me free because his contract pretty much ended, or his letter that I sent him ended. He's been coming to mayor's courts, covering for me at Parma Court, and when I can't make it, and he's done that for free. His parents live in the city. He's a very good person, knowledgeable, has worked in prosecution even when he was a law clerk over 11 years ago. And in consultation with Eric, I'd like to, tonight, on behalf as the acting director of law, make an appointment of Joe Grandinetti as an assistant director of law under 127.041, which is our new ordinance, which is the assistant director of law for building and zoning, which was drafted by Mr. Deemert. I'd like to make this appointment, and of course I would need council approval, and I would like to do it on an emergency basis because there is a need. I mean, I thought it would happen sooner. That's why his contract was till August 31st, but nothing goes as planned. So with that said, I would like to make, or I would hope that, Mr. President of Council, that a floor motion could be made by yourself or member allowing, confirming the appointment of Joe Grandinetti as Assistant Director of Law for Building and Zoning. And I thank all of council for your patience the last 3 or 4 months, and I hope I haven't let you down. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to make a motion to accept the appointment of Joe Grandinetti as the Assistant Law Director of Building. Do I have a second?
Second the motion?
Roll call?
Delaquilla,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Curriasis,
Yes.
Koyu,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
Welcome to the team, Joe.
President?
Yes.
Yeah,
Councilman Martin.
I just personally want to say thank you for the Assistant Law Director for his efforts over the last few months and to have the ability to roll with it. But more importantly, your efforts on that recent real estate transaction was spot on. Just the type of ability to roll with the punches and adapt and overcome, as us military guys say, right? So appreciate your efforts.
Thank you, Councilman Martin, and just to give you an update, we're ready to close. We've got the notice from the title company today.
Thank you. Director of Public Service Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd first like to congratulate Eric on your appointment. I've known Eric since I first came here, and I've always had a lot of respect for you, and I'm sure you're going to do a wonderful job as the law director. So congratulations. I want to take a few minutes, Mr. Chairman, to make some comments. We, for several council meetings now, have been talking about the issue of North Park, and I was slightly involved in this. So I feel that, I'd like to offer a few comments. I asked Jen to have a few slides to put up so that you could see some of the points that I'd like to make. First of all, I think it should be known that the volleyball amenity has been in North Park for nearly 3 decades. Volleyball was identified in the park's master plan as needing an upgrade. Additionally, the master plan indicated volleyball is to remain at North Park to keep it accessible throughout the city. And the service department was requested to refurbish the sand volleyball court. In that process, I made the decision that since we are investing so much money in our parks, that we should do it right. And I did a little research and made a decision that this volleyball court should be regulation size. There are some teams and leagues that I'm sure are accustomed to playing on regulation size courts, and so I made the decision that we would go with a regulation size court. The new location was close to the existing location and within the activity zone of the North Park master plan. The new location allows for parking lot expansion and provides safer playing condition by being farther away from the parking lot. The court was constructed with proper drainage, which means the underground drainage system was tied into the storm sewer. When we first started the excavation, was my first time meeting Mr. Orwig. I was called out to the site and he was down in the ditch. But there was an extensive amount of construction that goes into constructing a court like this. The reason for continuing to keep the court in the north-south direction as opposed to an east-west direction is to avoid players' view from being obstructed by the sun. And all of the other city courts are in the same north-south direction, and I'm sure for that same reason. The distance from the property line, I walked the entire property the other day, from the south to the north and then to the from the west to the east. And I don't know if you can make out this drone footage. The little beige corner in the left hand at the top is the north portion of the new volleyball court. I measured everything from the south end of the property to the north end of the property, and the parking lot is only six feet from the edge of the property line. I assume that the fence line is the property line. The edge of the parking lot is only 6 feet from the property line. The porta potty, which is in the parking lot, is about 8 foot from the property line. So there are some people that have a porta potty in their backyard, and we've not received any complaints about that. The volleyball court is 22 feet away from the property line. There's a baseball field in the northwest corner. The bleachers, I don't know if you can see it, there's a little white spot right there. The bleachers are only 15 feet from the property line. So I don't think that where the volleyball court is infringing upon any properties any more than any of the other activities. You can't see the really white lines. Those are flag football fields. 2 of them are practice fields, and the large one, where you can see her cursor, is the playing field that the flag football teams play on. All of those are still about the same distance as the sand volleyball court from the edges of the property line. So I just felt like I needed to make some comment about this. I don't think that we're infringing. Yes, the volleyball court is larger, but I thought that if we're spending as much money as we are in parks, that we should be doing things right. Moving it or keeping it as close to the parking lot as possible, I thought would have presented a safety issue. That's all. I just wanted to make those few comments. Thank you.
Mr. President, if I may just add a couple comments. We've been talking about this for about a year now. I haven't given up. I went out there, did meet Councilwoman Kelly on Saturday. It's not an unusual thing for me to be there on a Saturday or any other day. And this year's been stellar, particularly on Saturday. We've had comments from the audience. I got other people that I talked to. And if you've been to the park, and I believe Councilman Martin, and I know Councilman Curias has been there many times, literally every portion of the park is utilized on Saturday. Soccer, flag football, the parking lot is 100% full. Councilperson Kelly witnessed the parking situation. People are parking between the 2 houses on Rockhaven because they're out of property. The cars are parking on the grass between 2 residents' house, and both those residents support the activity. They got people parking outside their windows, but they're so happy the park's being rehabbed. The baseball field, as I mentioned in other meetings, is coming back. It's going to be rehabbed. We're going to reconstruct that. It's going to be aesthetically pleasing, and it's going to be on the regular schedule. There's going to be regularly scheduled baseball games come spring, summer. Okay. Had that conversation with Councilperson Kelly. Where could this possibly go, looking at the whole place is active? We had no suggestions. On the way out, I noticed, I went to Ms. Kelly, you know what? Maybe we can put it east-west, and it wouldn't be as close to the properties. But I had the staff look into that, and they had the answer right away. And the east-west doesn't work. All of our volleyball courts run north-south in the city because the sun sets in the east. And if you're going to have play and practice, the sun will be in your eyes, and it's going to impact the ability for people to enjoy and utilize this. We've had comments in the past that this should have went to planning, and this is going to be the last time I'm addressing this. The master plan did go to Planning Commission. I'll pass this down to council. It went to planning commission, and every aspect was reviewed by the planning commission, and passed, I believe, it was May 10th, 2022. Okay? On that same day, the master plan was submitted to council. Here's the meeting minutes of the meeting held on May 10th, 2022. Master plan of the parks indicating this area was active participation was unanimously approved by council on May 10th. All right, so it did go to planning, it did go to council. The court's been there for a year now-ish. The one thing, I did talk to some people. What I hear is a lot of bad behavior. One of the things in the future that's going to help enforce whether or not that's happening, and if it does happen, help the city's enforcement, is the new pavilion is going to have surveillance cameras. Okay? Number two, there's rules for abusive language. There's rules today for loud noise. And if that's happening, the police should be called a non-emergency number. In a continued due diligence, I had the police look back at North Park volleyball area for 2 years of any complaints or calls to dispatch for anything bad going on in the volleyball area. And for the 22-month period that we measured, 0 complaints were called in. So what I'm saying, and I did talk to one juvenile that uses the court, and I'm going to leave her name anonymous because she's a juvenile, and I didn't get permission from the parent. She does play for Normandy volleyball. She is in the 10th grade and a Seven Hills resident. I asked if any of her friends swear. She's not seen anything like that, and she also said they're pretty good about picking up. I know the people here tonight are they're most impacted because they're closest, but as I said before, I believe this is a reasonable expectation of a public park is volleyball. It's bigger, it's nicer, and is being used more, but it's not being used as much as some of the other parts of the field. And I think if we did some maneuvering, it would just lead to more noise. And I believe my staff did tremendous amount of due diligence, and I have not seen sufficient evidence to overturn my staff's decision to build here and implement what they did. Further conversations with Councilperson Kelly, Councilman Martin, and comments from Mr. Riggins' email today, I believe proper enforcement of the park rules in terms of noise, foul behavior, people driving on there can be enforced by proper police oversight and that being called in, which it hasn't. And that remains, I think, the biggest possibility of any disruption is the potential for the ball to go over the fence. So I'll be making a recommendation to our builder that we've already hired, that along the length of the volleyball court that we put a substantially higher fence, and this is in lieu of the privacy fence. The privacy fence is going to block view. It's going to not help the aesthetic, and it won't reduce the opportunity of a ball going over. So the greatest risk I see is the potential of a ball going over, and I want to minimize that because I have empathy for that, and I will instruct our parks team to work with the developer of this project to put as high as fences we're allowed to help prevent any balls going over. In terms of noise or that, it should be handled in the appropriate way. It should be called in. Last, I want to talk to one of the things on Mr. Riggins' thing. I must remind everyone it's already passed. Parks, you can rent a pavilion and you can have beer or wine. That's been in play for a year. We've had a number of weddings out here. We haven't had any issues. And one of the biggest fallacies that was fed by some lies on the internet is you can't do this without a permit, and you cannot do it without a Seven Hills police officer present. And I have great respect for our men and now lady in blue, and they're not going to let foul behavior happen on their watch when they're personally standing right there. And if that does happen, council, administration can change the policy and council can inform the administration to change the policy. But we had no complaints, and this policy was in effect all summer. We'll continue to monitor it as the health and safety of our residents is our number one concern. But there hasn't been any documentation to say that after an entire summer of events, that policy was abused in any way, shape, or form. I wrap this up after over a year of discussing this matter, that this is the administration's final research and comments on this matter. I ask council to work in their legislative manner going forward if they seem redeemed fit. That would be, I make a motion to change something, change the park rules, change the alcohol rule, change the location. But it should not be a suggestion, it should be a form in a council legislative. I moved to move the court to X location and then take a vote. But the administration's done significant research. I've taken 4 or 5 people off of very other important projects throughout the last year to continue to follow up on this matter. I believe we've exhausted it, and I feel, and I thank people for coming to give their point of view. But as a leader, you have to balance the good of the many. You know, there has to be a fine line between, you know, here's what might impact a few people, and here's what's best for the community. And I think we've done our homework, and this is my last comments on this. Thank you, Mr. President, for this extra time.
Thank you, Mayor Biassiata. We now go to City Engineer Schmitzer. No report. Thank you. Building Commissioner Grassi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening. Throughout October, the building department processed 77 permits, 8 new property maintenance complaints, and 20 contractor registrations. We sent out 58 follow-up letters for rental property owners, of which 28 paid applications came back. We're currently in the process of putting a new rental packet together for the 2023 calendar year mailing. And on the construction front, the NEO Church addition is really taking shape. Raising Cane's Projects has submitted final revisions to their construction drawings, and they will receive a phased approval. Charlie's Philly Cheesesteaks are going through their final inspection stage of the project, as is Sweeping Corp of America, their new addition. On a final note, the town center parking lot at Albius is in will be milled and paved this weekend. And to date, there have been no new submittals for Planning Commission or Zoning Board of Appeals. That completes my report. Thank you for your time, and have a good evening.
Thank you. I'm going to excuse the department heads because we're going to go into executive session. So I'm going to make a motion to go into executive session for employee performance under 122.22. Do I have a second?
Kelly, I'll second.
Roll call. Roll call.
Delapula,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Curriasis.
Yes.
Koyu,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Snitsky.
Yes.
We go into executive session at 7:27. I need Law Director Moore, Pat DeCiro,